She was just a cleaner trying to get to work. One splash of dirty water changed everything. The woman who mocked her had no idea someone powerful was watching. It was a cold morning in the city of Gold Spring. The sky was grey, and a soft mist covered the streets. Maya Johnson, a young woman of 24, walked quickly along the roadside, holding her old cleaning gloves and a small bag with her breakfast. Her uniform was neat but faded, and her shoes were so worn they made a soft squeak with every step. Still, Maya walked with purpose. She didn't want to be late for work again. She worked as a cleaner at Silverline Business Towers, one of the tallest and most expensive buildings in the city. Inside that building, rich people wore suits that cost more than Maya's yearly salary. But she didn't envy them. She just wanted to do her job well and keep her grandmother fed and healthy. Her grandmother, Mama Ruth, had been sick for months. Every coin Maya earned went to pay for her medicine. That's why she couldn't afford to lose this job. As she neared the big tower, she checked her small wristwatch, 6:05 a.m. Her heart started to beat fast. Mr. Blake, her supervisor, hated lateness. Even 2 minutes could mean a warning letter. Maya crossed the street quickly, holding her bag close. The road was still wet from last night's rain. A large puddle of dirty water sat by the corner, right in front of the tower's driveway. Just then, she heard the loud sound of a car engine behind her. She turned and saw a shiny red convertible speeding toward the entrance. Before she could move away, the car's tire hit the puddle. Splash! Cold, muddy water flew up and covered her from head to toe. Her clean uniform turned brown. Her bag dripped water. Even her hair was soaked. Maya gasped. She looked down at herself in shock, unable to believe what just happened. The car stopped right in front of her. The door opened slowly, and out stepped a tall, elegant woman wearing a white fur coat and high heels. Her lipstick was bright red. Her perfume filled the air. She looked like someone from a magazine cover. Everyone knew her face, Bella Ross, the famous fashion editor who loved attention and luxury. Bella looked at Maya's wet clothes and burst into a cruel laugh. "Oh dear," she said. "You really shouldn't stand in the gutter. It doesn't suit you." Her young assistant tried to laugh with her, but his eyes showed pity. Maya's lips trembled. I'm sorry, ma'am," she said softly. Even though she had done nothing wrong, Bella rolled her eyes and pulled out her phone. She snapped a picture of Maya standing in her wet uniform. Then she smiled and said coldly, "Next time, stand where cleaners belong." Without another word, she got back into her car and drove off. The red car disappeared down the road, leaving behind only the smell of perfume and the sound of Maya's quiet breathing. Maya stood there frozen, her hands shaking. The cold water dripped down her face like tears. For a long moment, she couldn't move. People nearby saw what happened, but no one came to help. Some whispered, some laughed. No one offered her a towel or a kind word. Maya slowly bent down, picked up her bag, and whispered to herself, "You'll be okay. Don't cry, just keep walking." She took a deep breath and walked toward the side entrance of the building, every step heavy, her shoes squishing in the puddles. But across the street, someone else had seen everything. From behind the glass walls of the Silverline Tower, a man stood watching. Adrian Cole, the CEO of the company that owned the building. He was one of the city's youngest billionaires, quiet, private, and known for being serious and fair. He had just arrived early for a meeting when he noticed the scene outside. He saw the red car splash the girl. He saw her face, her silence, and how she didn't shout or curse, just quietly picked up her things and walked away. Adrian frowned. The name Bella Ross was familiar to him. They had met at business events before. He knew she was proud, loud, and unkind. But what caught his attention was not her cruelty. It was Maya's dignity. The way she didn't argue. The way she held her head high, even when humiliated. He turned to his assistant and said, "Find out who that girl is. The cleaner who just entered the building." His voice was calm, but his eyes were sharp. "I want to know everything about her." The assistant nodded immediately. "Yes, sir." Inside, Maya went straight to the cleaning room. She could already hear her supervisor's voice echoing down the hall. "Johnson, you're late again." Maya stopped, her throat tight. "I'm sorry, sir." A car splashed. "No excuses," Mr. Blake cut in sharply. "Just get to work. The lobby must be spotless before the clients arrive." She nodded quickly. "Yes, sir." When he walked away, Maya let out a shaky sigh. She wanted to explain. She wanted to scream that it wasn't her fault. But what would it change? To them, she was just the cleaner. Someone to order around, someone to ignore. Maya wrung her uniform at the sink, water dripping into the drain. She found her old backup apron in her locker and put it on. It smelled faintly of soap and hard days. She tied her hair into a bun, wiped her eyes, and whispered, "You can't quit now, Maya. Grandma's medicine depends on this." Then she pushed her cleaning cart toward the lobby, where the bright marble floors reflected the morning light. As she worked, her mind wandered. She thought of her grandmother coughing softly in their small one-room home. She thought of how tired she was, how every day felt like a battle to survive. But she also thought of something else, her mother's voice before she died, saying, "No matter who looks down on you, don't stop looking up." So Maya smiled faintly, even as she scrubbed the muddy floor. Her hands were rough, her back ached, but she kept moving, because sometimes strength doesn't roar. Sometimes it just quietly keeps going. Upstairs, Adrian Cole sat in his office, still thinking about what he had seen. He couldn't shake the image of the girl standing in the rain, silent, strong, and alone. He sipped his coffee and said quietly to himself, "She didn't deserve that." His assistant soon returned with a file. "Sir, her name is Maya Johnson, 24 years old. She works 2 cleaning jobs here and at a supermarket. Lives with her grandmother in West End. Her record says she's hardworking and never complains." "He play?" Adrian looked at her photo. In it, she was smiling beside an older woman with kind eyes. He touched the photo lightly and said under his breath, "You won't stay invisible for long." And from that moment, Maya's life, though she didn't know it yet, had started to change, because someone powerful had noticed the quiet girl no one else saw. The next morning came too soon. Maya woke up before sunrise, her alarm clock buzzing softly on the wooden stool beside her bed. Her small room smelt faintly of soap and rain. The ceiling leaked again in the corner, but she was used to it. Her grandmother, Mama Ruth, was already awake, sitting on the edge of her bed with a blanket wrapped around her shoulders. "Did you sleep well, my child?" she asked. Maya smiled faintly as she helped her grandmother to sit upright. "I slept, Grandma. That's enough for me." She poured hot water into a bowl, mixed in a little milk powder, and handed it to her. It wasn't much, but it was warm. Mama Ruth looked at her granddaughter and sighed. "You work too hard, Maya." Maya smiled. "I have to. You always said hard work never kills." Her grandmother nodded slowly. "It doesn't, but sometimes it breaks the heart." Maya didn't reply. She just kissed her grandmother's forehead, tied her hair neatly, and left for work. When she arrived at Silverline Towers, the sun was still hiding behind the clouds. The air smelled of polish and coffee. She went straight to the locker room, hoping for a quiet morning. But when she opened her locker, she froze. Inside was a small brown paper bag. She blinked, confused. She hadn't put anything there the night before. She picked it up and slowly unwrapped it. Inside were a new pair of cleaning gloves, a freshly baked pastry wrapped in foil, and a folded note that said, "For the hands that never stop working, you are seen." Maya's heart beat faster. She looked around, but no one seemed to notice her. Her co-workers were busy chatting or changing. No one looked her way. She sat down and stared at the note again. For a moment, her eyes filled with tears. No one had ever done something kind for her at work before. No one even noticed her unless something went wrong. And now, someone had left her breakfast. She whispered softly, "Thank you, whoever you are." She took a small bite of the pastry. It was warm, soft, and buttery. The first real breakfast she'd had in weeks. Far above, in his top-floor office, Adrian Cole stood by the window, watching the security feed on his tablet. He saw the exact moment Maya opened her locker and smiled for the first time in days. He felt his chest tighten, though he didn't understand why. He wasn't used to caring about strangers. He was used to meetings, deadlines, and numbers, not emotions. But this girl, there was something about her quiet strength that pulled at something inside him. She reminded him of his late mother, strong, gentle, always dignified, no matter how hard life was. His assistant, David, walked in with some papers. Adrian quickly turned off the screen. "Sir, are you reviewing the new cleaning contracts?" David asked. Adrian nodded slowly. "Something like that." When David left, Adrian looked out the window again. The morning sun had finally appeared, lighting up the streets below. He whispered to himself, "Keep going, Maya. The world may ignore you, but not me." Downstairs, The day began like every other. Maya mopped, scrubbed, and dusted the lobby. But something felt lighter inside her heart. Every time she looked at the new gloves on her hands, she smiled. Her co-workers noticed. Clara, one of the senior cleaners, raised an eyebrow. "You're awfully happy today, Maya," she said sharply. Maya smiled softly. "Just grateful to be here." Clara scoffed. Maybe you got a secret admirer." A few others laughed. Maya said nothing. She had learned long ago that silence was safer than defending herself. But their laughter didn't fade easily. They whispered among themselves, making small jokes as she passed. Even so, Maya kept working. She refused to let their words dirty her spirit the way that Puddle had dirtied her uniform. Around noon, she went behind the building to eat lunch. She sat on an old wooden crate and unwrapped her food, just plain rice and beans. She bowed her head quietly. "Thank you, Lord, for even this." As she ate, a man walked by the gate and stopped for a moment. He wore a grey suit and dark sunglasses, holding a phone to his ear. It was Adrian, but Maya didn't recognize him. He spoke softly into the phone, pretending to check something, but his eyes were on her. He saw how she ate slowly, carefully, as if making the food last longer. He saw her look at her phone between bites, maybe waiting for a message from her grandmother. He smiled faintly. There was no makeup on her face, no shine in her shoes, but there was something beautiful about her calmness. He whispered quietly, "You don't even know I'm here, but one day you'll understand why I noticed you." Then he walked away, blending back into the city crowd. That evening, when Maya finished work, she was exhausted. Her feet ached, and her back felt stiff. But she went home smiling. When she reached her small apartment, her grandmother was sitting by the window, sewing a torn bedsheet. "Maya," Mama Ruth said softly, "you look tired." "I'm okay, Grandma," Maya replied, setting down her bag. Then she pulled out the note from her locker and showed it to her grandmother. Mama Ruth adjusted her glasses and read it slowly. Her eyes filled with tears. "Someone finally sees your worth, my child." Maya nodded, smiling. "It made me happy, even if I don't know who it is." Her grandmother took Maya's hand and said gently, "When the world gives you kindness, don't question it. Just let it remind you that you're not invisible." Maya leaned her head on her grandmother's shoulder. "I hope one day I can make someone else feel seen too." That night, as Maya lay on her small bed, she couldn't sleep. Her mind replayed the events of the past 2 days, the splash, the laughter, the mud, the cruel woman, and the strange kindness that followed. She held the note against her chest and closed her eyes. Maybe things were changing. Maybe the world wasn't completely blind after all. Outside her window, the city lights glowed softly. Far away, in a tall office tower, Adrian Cole sat alone in his office, his eyes resting on a single file on his desk. Maya Johnson. He whispered quietly to himself. She has no idea what's coming, no idea how her story is about to change. And though the night outside was silent, fate was already turning. The girl no one saw was about to be seen by the whole world. Morning sunlight slipped through the tall glass windows of Silverline business towers, painting golden lines across the marble floors. The city outside was awake and noisy, but inside, everything was quiet, too quiet. Maya moved carefully through the lobby, her cleaning cart rolling softly beside her. She wore the new gloves she'd found in her locker the day before. They fit perfectly, like they had been made just for her. She smiled to herself. It was a small thing, but it meant so much. Every time she looked at them, she remembered the note. "You are seen." She didn't know who left it, but somehow it gave her strength. Her co-workers whispered as she passed. "She thinks she's special now," one woman said. "New gloves, new smile." Another added, "Maybe she's trying to impress someone." Maya pretended not to hear. She had learned that some people will always find reasons to dislike your peace. Still, the whispers followed her everywhere. Even Clara, the senior cleaner, who had once been friendly, now frowned whenever Maya walked by. Clara had worked there for 6 years and believed no one should rise faster than her. She didn't like the way the supervisors praised Maya's work or how guests sometimes complimented her manners. To Clara, Maya's quiet success felt like a threat. That afternoon, Maya was cleaning the hallway near the conference rooms when Clara walked in. "Still polishing that glass?" Clara asked sharply. Maya smiled politely. "Yes, ma'am. It's a little dusty today." Clara crossed her arms. "You don't have to act perfect, Maya. No one's watching you. Maya's smile faded slightly. I'm just doing my job, that's all. Clara turned away with a huff. We'll see how long that lasts. Maya said nothing. She didn't want to argue. She finished her work quietly, unaware that Clara's jealousy was about to cause real trouble. Later that evening, when most of the staff had gone home, Maya stayed behind to finish mopping the executive lobby. She worked slowly, humming a soft tune her grandmother used to sing. When she finally left, she placed the yellow caution sign in the center of the wet floor, as she always did. Then she switched off the lights and locked up. But an hour later, someone else came back into the lobby, Clara. Her eyes were cold. She opened the supply closet, grabbed the wrong cleaning solution, one that left the floor slippery, and poured it where Maya had just mopped. Then she smiled to herself and whispered, "Let's see how perfect you look after this." The next morning was chaos. A business guest had slipped and fallen in the lobby. The hotel manager was furious. Staff gathered around as the man shouted about suing the company. Mr. Blake, the supervisor, stormed in with his clipboard. "Who cleaned this area last night?" he demanded. "Maya Johnson," Clara said quickly, pretending to look shocked. "She was the last one here. I saw her." Maya, who had just arrived for her shift, froze. "Sir, that's not true. I did clean the area, but I used the normal solution and left the caution sign." "Enough, mister," Blake snapped. "A guest got hurt, and the floor was unsafe. That's your responsibility." Tears filled Maya's eyes. "Please, sir, I didn't." "I don't want excuses. You're suspended until further notice," he barked. Her heart broke. She had worked so hard to keep this job, sacrificed sleep, food, and comfort. And now, because of someone's lie, it was slipping away. As she packed her things, Clara stood at a distance, pretending to be sad. But there was a small, cruel smile hiding in the corner of her lips. When Maya reached home, her grandmother saw the pain on her face immediately. "What happened, my child?" Maya couldn't speak at first. Her voice trembled. They blamed me for something I didn't do, Grandma. They said I made someone fall." Mama Ruth reached out and held her hands tightly. "You didn't do it, did you?" Maya shook her head. "I swear I didn't." "Then don't cry," Mama Ruth whispered. "Truth may walk slowly, but it always arrives." Maya tried to smile, but tears rolled down her cheeks. She didn't know how to explain that the truth often arrives too late for people like her. Meanwhile, high above the city, Adrian Cole sat in his office reading a report about the incident. He frowned. "A cleaner was suspended for negligence?" His assistant nodded. "Yes, sir. A guest fell yesterday. The cleaner's name is Maya Johnson." Adrian's eyes darkened. "Maya?" he repeated quietly. "That doesn't sound right." He had watched her for days, how careful she was, how precise. He knew she wouldn't make such a mistake. "Get me the security footage from last night," he said firmly. Hours later, Adrian sat in the security room watching the recordings. He fast-forwarded through the footage until he saw it. Maya placing the caution sign properly, checking the floor twice, and leaving at exactly 9:47 p.m. Then, at 10:22 p.m., Clara entered the same lobby, opened the closet, and poured a different chemical onto the floor. The truth hit Adrian like a wave. He leaned back in his chair, his jaw tight. "So this is what jealousy does," he muttered. He called Mr. Blake immediately. "Reinstate Maya Johnson," he said in a calm but cold voice, "and suspend Clara for misconduct, effective immediately." "Sir, how did you?" "I see everything that happens in my building," Adrian interrupted. "Next time, investigate before you accuse an innocent person." He hung up. The next morning, Maya arrived at the tower, still unsure if she should even come back. When she reached the lobby, Mr. Blake called her over. "Maya," he said awkwardly, "you've been cleared. It was a misunderstanding. You can resume work." She blinked in shock. "Sir." "What?" He sighed. "It seems someone tampered with the chemicals. The real culprit has been suspended." Maya pressed her hand over her heart. Relief and disbelief flooded her all at once. "Thank you, sir," she whispered. As she walked away, she quietly said to herself, "Whoever saved me, may God bless them." That evening, as the sun sank behind the buildings, Maya was polishing the glass railing again when a deep voice spoke behind her. You shouldn't cry for being honest. She turned. It was Adrian Cole. Her eyes widened. Sir, he smiled softly. You did nothing wrong. I saw the footage. Tears filled her eyes. You believed me? He nodded. Yes, because people like you don't lie. You worked too hard for that. Maya swallowed the lump in her throat. Thank you, sir. You don't know what this means to me. Adrian looked at her for a moment, then said quietly, You remind me of someone, my mother. She was a cleaner too. People stepped on what she scrubbed, but she never stopped shining. For a moment, neither of them spoke. There was only silence and understanding. When Adrian finally walked away, Maya wiped her tears and smiled through them. Because now, she knew someone truly saw her. And for the first time in her life, she didn't feel invisible. The days that followed were quiet, but not ordinary. For the first time in a long while, Maya Johnson went to work with peace in her heart. Her name was cleared. The shame that once followed her had finally faded. Every morning, she still arrived early, still scrubbed the floors until they shone, still smiled at the guests who walked past her without a word. But now, when she looked in the mirror, she didn't see just a cleaner. She saw a survivor, a woman who had faced lies, stood tall, and was still standing. That week, something unexpected happened. As Maya entered the locker room one morning, she found another paper bag waiting inside her locker. Her breath caught. Inside it was a small bouquet of fresh daisies and a folded note. Keep shining, Maya. The world is finally catching up to your light. She smiled so wide that her eyes glistened. Whoever was leaving those notes, whoever saw her, was slowly giving her the strength to dream again. Meanwhile, on the top floor, Adrian Cole sat behind his desk, scrolling through hotel reports. But his mind wasn't on numbers. He thought about Maya, her kindness, her calmness, her courage. Every time he saw her on the security feed or passed her in the hallway, she reminded him of something he'd forgotten. Humility. His assistant, David, noticed the difference. Sir, David said with a small grin, you've been visiting the lobby a lot lately. Something wrong with the cleaning staff? Adrian looked up slowly. No, something right. David raised an eyebrow but didn't ask further. Some things were better left unsaid. That afternoon, Adrian walked down to the lobby, dressed simply in a grey shirt and no tie. He didn't want to be Mr. Cole, the billionaire CEO. He just wanted to see her as himself. Maya was polishing the flower stand near the elevator. When she looked up and saw him, she froze, almost dropping her cloth. Good afternoon, sir, she said nervously. Good afternoon, Adrian replied, smiling kindly. May I ask your name again? Maya, sir. Maya Johnson. He nodded slowly. You do good work, Maya. I've noticed how careful you are. Thank you for keeping this place shining. Her cheeks warmed. It's my job, sir, but… Thank you. Adrian hesitated for a moment, then asked gently, If you could do something else, anything in the world, what would it be? Maya blinked, surprised. No one had ever asked her that before. She looked down at her hands, still holding the cloth. I'd study hospitality management. I want to learn how to manage a place like this, maybe even own one someday. Adrian's eyes softened. Why don't you? She gave a sad smile. School costs money. My salary barely covers rent and grandma's medicine. So, I just dream quietly. He nodded slowly. Keep dreaming. Sometimes quiet dreams grow the loudest. Maya smiled shyly. You're kind, sir. Thank you for believing in me. That night, Adrian sat in his car before going home. He couldn't stop thinking about her words. The way she spoke without anger, without bitterness, moved him. He opened his laptop and typed a message to the HR department. Subject: Staff Scholarship Proposal. Approve funding for Maya Johnson to attend the Evening School of Hospitality. All expenses covered. Keep this anonymous. He hit send, leaned back, and whispered to himself, She doesn't need pity. She just needs a chance. Across town, Bella Ross was living her usual glamorous life. Her face was on magazine covers. Her name was in gossip blogs. But lately, something strange had begun to happen. A picture had started circulating online, a blurry photo of her red convertible splashing a poor cleaner with dirty water. The caption read, Some people think wealth washes away kindness. It didn't take long for people to recognize her car, her coat, her face behind the sunglasses. The internet turned fast. Comments poured in. Heartless. Is this the woman we call a role model? Shame on her. Bella's phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Her manager called. Her publicist screamed, and her followers dropped by the thousands. She slammed her phone on the table. Who took that photo? She shouted. Her assistant, Casey, swallowed nervously. Maybe someone in the building saw what happened. Bella glared. Who cares about a stupid cleaner? But deep down, her stomach twisted, because maybe, just maybe, the world had finally seen the dirt beneath her shine. Meanwhile, at Silverline Towers, something beautiful was happening. One morning, Maya was called to the supervisor's office. Her heart pounded as she entered. Mr. Blake was there, looking serious but not angry. Maya, he said, flipping through some papers. You've been selected for a special staff training program. Hospitality classes, fully sponsored. Maya's mouth fell open. What? I didn't apply for anything. It's been approved, he said simply. You start next month. Congratulations. She stood there, speechless. Tears filled her eyes. Sir, are you sure this isn't a mistake? He shook his head. No mistake. Someone clearly believes in you. Maya covered her mouth, whispering softly, Thank you. Thank you so much. When she walked out of the office, the other cleaners stared. Clara looked furious. Her again? She hissed. How is she getting all this attention? But Maya didn't hear her. Her heart was too full. That evening, she ran home to tell her grandmother. Grandma, I got selected for a scholarship. They're paying for me to study hospitality management. Mama Ruth's hands shook as she clapped them together in joy. My child, you see what I told you? Truth and kindness always find a way. Maya hugged her grandmother tightly, crying happy tears. For the first time in years, she could see a future beyond mops and dust. The next morning, she found a small card waiting in her locker again. This time, it read, Your hard work speaks louder than gold. A friend. She pressed it against her chest and smiled. She didn't need to know who wrote it. Her heart already knew. And up on the top floor, Adrian watched her reaction through the glass screen of his office security feed. He smiled faintly, whispering to himself, Small steps, Maya. The world is finally seeing you. But not everyone was happy about Maya's rising star. Far away, Bella Ross scrolled angrily through social media, her fingers trembling. Every headline spoke of her cruelty and the mystery cleaner, who was now being praised online. Bloggers were calling Maya the cleaner who inspired a billionaire. Bella slammed her laptop shut. Over my dead body, she hissed. Because while Maya's light was growing, Bella's pride was starting to burn, and soon their worlds would collide again. It had been 3 weeks since Maya's name first appeared on the staff bulletin board, employees selected for the Silverline Scholarship. Her story had quietly begun to spread. People whispered her name in hallways, not with laughter anymore, but with respect. The cleaner everyone once ignored was now becoming a symbol of hope, but while the light around Maya grew, someone else's pride was breaking. Bella Ross sat in her glass-walled office, scrolling angrily through her phone. Every headline seemed to mock her. Fashion icon humiliates poor cleaner caught on camera. The rise of Maya Johnson, from stains to stardom. Mise Zen. Her social media accounts were filled with angry comments. Brands were pulling away from her. Her father, a wealthy investor, had called her the night before and said coldly, You've brought shame to the family name. Fix this or don't come home. Bella slammed her phone on the desk, her hands shaking. How can one poor cleaner ruin everything I built? She muttered bitterly. Her assistant, Casey, tried to speak gently. Maybe if you apologize publicly, people might forgive you. Bella shot her a glare. Apologize? To a cleaner? Never. But deep down, guilt was starting to whisper where pride once shouted. At Silverline Towers, Maya's life was changing faster than she could keep up. Her classes had begun at the evening school of hospitality. Every night after work, she rushed to the bus stop, still in her uniform, her notebooks clutched in her hands. She was learning about management, hotel ethics, and customer care, the very thing she once served from the sidelines. Every time she felt tired, she looked at the old note pinned inside her locker. You are seen, and somehow it gave her strength. One Thursday afternoon, Maya was cleaning the conference lounge when her supervisor entered with a nervous smile. Maya, you're needed upstairs in the Sky Lounge. Mr. Cole requested you personally. Her heart skipped a beat. Mr. Cole, the CEO? He nodded. Yes, he said, it's important. Maya quickly fixed her uniform and went up. The Sky Lounge was quiet, filled with sunlight and the smell of roses. Adrian Cole stood by the window, his suit jacket off, his sleeves rolled up. When he turned and saw her, he smiled softly. Come in, Maya. She stepped forward carefully. You asked to see me, sir? He nodded. Yes, please, sit. She hesitated, but when he gestured kindly, she sat down at the small table near the window. Adrian placed a folder in front of her. These are your scholarship documents. The board has approved full funding for your studies, and when you finish, there's a management position waiting for you right here at Silverline. Maya's eyes widened. Sir, I don't know what to say. Adrian smiled gently. Say thank you by finishing what you started. You've earned this. Tears filled her eyes. But why me? He paused, his voice quiet but full of meaning. Because when the world threw mud at you, you didn't throw it back. You kept walking. You reminded me of my mother. She was a cleaner too. She taught me that dignity is the most beautiful thing a person can wear. Maya wiped her tears and smiled through them. Thank you, Mr. Cole. Truly. He looked at her, his eyes soft. Please, call me Adrian. But just when Maya's life began to bloom, trouble returned like a dark cloud. The next morning, the company's social media page exploded with a post from a gossip blog. Breaking. Cleaner. Maya Johnson. Allegedly using relationship with CEO Adrian Cole for personal gain. Inside sources claim she's been seducing him for promotion. The photo attached showed Adrian speaking to Maya in the lounge taken from a distance, twisted into a lie. By afternoon, whispers filled the building again. She's sleeping her way to the top. Nays, no, I knew it was too good to be true. Some people will do anything for money. Maya's hands trembled as she read the post. Her heart sank. Not again. She tried to ignore it, but every look, every whisper burned. When Adrian saw the post, his face hardened. He knew exactly who was behind it. He picked up his phone. Find out who sent that story to the press. An hour later, his assistant returned with the answer. Sir, it came from Bella Ross's publicist. Adrian's jaw tightened. Of course, he called a press meeting immediately. The next morning, cameras and reporters filled the conference hall. Adrian stood at the podium, calm and firm. I called this conference, he began, to address a cruel lie spread about one of our employees, Maya Johnson. The reporters leaned forward. Adrian continued, his voice steady but full of fire. Maya is not a liar. She's not a manipulator. She's the most hardworking, honest, and respectful woman I've ever met. If anyone here wants to question her character, they'll have to question mine first. Murmurs filled the room. Cameras clicked. She didn't use me for anything, Adrian went on. I chose to help her because the world doesn't need more power, it needs more kindness. When he stepped down from the stage, the crowd erupted in applause. The story went viral, but this time in Maya's favor. That evening, Maya stood outside the building, tears running down her cheeks. She had watched the entire conference live on her phone. She couldn't believe what Adrian had done for her publicly, fearlessly. As she wiped her tears, a black car stopped beside her. Adrian stepped out, walking toward her with a gentle smile. You didn't have to defend me, she said softly. He shook his head. Yes, I did. The world needs to know what real strength looks like. She looked down shyly. You risked your name for mine. He smiled faintly. Maybe names don't matter when hearts speak louder. There was silence between them, soft, comfortable, full of unspoken emotion. He reached into his pocket and handed her a small red rose. For the woman who taught me what dignity looks like. She held it close, her voice trembling. You've changed my life, Adrian. He smiled. No, Maya, you changed your own life. I just noticed. Months later, Silverline Towers held its annual gala. Maya walked into the grand hall wearing a simple cream dress, her posture tall and confident. The light sparkled above her. She wasn't the cleaner anymore. She was now an assistant manager in training, respected and loved by everyone. When she was called to the stage to receive her award for excellence and integrity, the entire room stood and clapped. Even Mr. Blake, who once scolded her, smiled proudly. Maya stepped to the microphone, her hands trembling slightly. She took a deep breath and said, A year ago, I walked to work in old shoes and a uniform full of stains. I was laughed at, insulted, and ignored. But one act of cruelty led to one act of kindness, and that changed my life. The room fell silent. She smiled softly. I stand here today because I refused to stop trying, and because someone believed in me when I couldn't believe in myself. Her eyes met Adrian's in the crowd, and I learned something important. Kindness is never weakness. Sometimes it's the strongest voice in the room. The audience rose in applause. Tears glistened in several eyes. After the gala, Maya stepped outside onto the same street where it had all begun, the spot where Bella's car had splashed her with mud months ago. Now the road was clean and smooth, the puddle gone. Adrian joined her, standing quietly by her side. He looked at her and smiled. "This is where it started," he said softly. She nodded. "Yes, and this is where I finally forgive it." She slipped off her heels and stepped barefoot onto the cool pavement. "I'm leaving behind the pain," she whispered. Adrian removed his shoes too and stood beside her. "And walking toward everything beautiful," he said. They looked at each other, not boss and cleaner anymore, but two souls who had seen the best and worst of life and chosen kindness anyway. The city lights shimmered around them as they walked forward together, hand in hand. Hearts steady. Their story written not in mud, but in grace. Because even when life throws dirt, some people still find a way to bloom. The end. Moral lesson. Life will not always be kind. Sometimes, people will throw dirt on your name, your dreams, or your dignity. But remember, what truly defines you is not how clean your clothes are, but how clean your heart stays. Maya's story reminds us that kindness is never weakness, and humility is not silence, it is strength in its purest form. No act of goodness is ever wasted, because even when life throws mud, a flower can still bloom. And sometimes, it blooms bright enough for the whole world to see.